So, the message I have for you tonight is very simple. You are not too much. You were made to feel like you're too much by people who benefited from your shame. My name is Solarah. I don't have any downloads. My last video was quite weighty with downloads for those of you who saw it. And I've been taking a bit of a break in the aftermath, not only of that, but also of a very intense eclipse. So we're not going to go into downloads tonight. We're going to go into the cards and see what wants to come through. So the message is, you are not too much. You were made to feel too much from those who benefited from your shame. So why might this message be coming up as I shuffle the cards? Let's talk about this a little bit and what's going on with this eclipse, or the aftermath of this eclipse, as we move into the close of Pisces season and the new moon in Pisces next week, as well as, of course, the astrological new year and, the March equinox. So a lot coming forth next week, right? And then we just had, about 48 hours ago, at the time of recording, Jupiter went direct. Now, Jupiter stationed to go direct, I believe I want to say on the 11th. I want to say on the 11th at 3. No, it was on the 10th. Jupiter stationed to go direct on the afternoon of the 10th at 3:30 my time. And then it actually went direct at 3:30 in the morning on the 11th my time. Okay, so that's going to be different for you guys wherever you are in the world. So when a planet stations to go direct, it means that it stops its retrograde phase, but it doesn't actually start to move direct until after a certain amount of time. Now with Jupiter, it was a 12-hour window from the time it stopped its retrograde phase entirely and then started to move in the direct motion. So what was really interesting about this, a few things, is that the abundance of the number 3, for me, because of, the time, 3:30 in the afternoon, it stopped its retrograde, 3:30 in the morning on the 11th of the 3rd, it started going direct. But even if you're not looking at it from the standpoint of time, like because it happened at that time for me, just the mere fact that it was a 12-hour window from stopping its retrograde to going direct. When oftentimes what I've noticed, and I don't know if this is special for Jupiter, because I don't know all this information to be completely transparent, but a lot of the time what I've noticed is planets will stop their retrograde, and sometimes it takes up to 24 hours before they actually start their direct motion again. I know that was the case with Uranus. But this 12 number, right, which breaks down to a 3. It breaks down to a 3. And then if Jupiter went direct for you guys on the 11th, like I said, that's the 11th of the 3rd, which again, like I'm thinking 11 times 3 is 33. There's a lot of that mastery code energy that I've been feeling coming through that Jupiter direct shift that we've been going through. And many of you know, like I've been talking about this since the beginning of the year, how 2026, it really is a year of getting back a lot of our codes of mastery for as long as we are ready to hold them, and for as long as we are ready to accept them and accept ourselves for who we are. And one of the main ways that we're being supported in this is through a lot of nervous system healing, so that we can actually hold what is ours again in our multidimensional infinite truth. I've talked about that a lot as well. 1944, my clock. So this whole Jupiter going direct and the mastery codes that have been coming through, what kind of mastery codes are they? Because everything feels a little bit, I want to say almost energetically disheveled in the aftermath of the eclipse. And then Jupiter going direct in the midst of that energy, it's feeling a little bit, I don't even know the word for it. Maybe woozy is like the right thing. It's feeling a little bit, floaty right now. for many people, you know. And then I think also there's been some crazy action on the Schumann charts. I don't follow it too much, but I've seen like things come up on my algorithm talking about the um, the craziness of what's happening right now in the Schumann resonance too. So there's a lot going on. So mastery codes coming through Jupiter. We've got this recent eclipse that occurred in Virgo that was doing so much. You know, I did a comprehensive read on the energies on my other channel, Solarah Rises, but it was a blood moon, right? It was a full moon, a blood moon, a lot of clearing the false architectures and narratives that have utilized our body and our biology as battlefields and courtrooms and even ritual spaces, I would say, because so much of what we've come to believe about who we are on a biological level and how our bodies work has been by design to get us to sign off on narratives that fed the false matrix siphoning system and its unnatural death and decay cycles that allowed for the looping mechanisms to stay. Okay, so there's so much that was clearing. That's just one aspect of what was clearing through the full moon in Virgo. A lot of that biology is also to do with family, right? So we carry a lot of generational code that sometimes doesn't match who we are cosmologically based upon how we've incarnated into the earth, families that we incarnated into, you know, for a myriad of reasons. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, you'll know I've talked about how so many of us, so many of you that resonate with my work, your families and the bloodlines you've been incarnating into since the dawn of the false matrix are you've been incarnating into them because you've been bound to them contractually through these master-slave contracts from the Atlantean age that I've also talked about. Those were the contracts that were leaving the earth through the full moon in Leo. So now a lot of the generational coding that has come through being bound to those bloodlines and the effect it's had on the expression of your DNA and how you relate to your body, the opportunity to clear that and come into correct relationship with who you are on an individual level in your source code is there. And I'm going to emphasize individual because not every single body is created the same. All of these biological codes and clocks and generational things that we've been told we're more likely to have, those are all scripts that our bodies have become programmed into because of repetition and because of those things not being challenged and because of us not knowing who we are and therefore having no idea that on a biological level our individual biology matches our cosmology and our true blueprints, right? So this whole like trying to put people into this whole thing where the average lifespan is this and yeah, that's what it's become through scripting, through binding, through the false matrix energy harvesting system, but that's not always what it was. Okay, so this "you're not too much" message that's been coming through. You were only made to feel like you were too much by those who benefited from your shame. Why is this coming up also with all of these mastery codes and the shift in understanding of how you relate to yourself and your body? And let's also add into there your power, because I do feel like for a lot of you right now, what is happening is it's not so much system upgrades, although those are happening too, but what I feel like is at the forefront of all of this is a deeper conscious awareness of your system and how it functions. Okay, so you've probably been noticing things about yourself for a while. You know, you've been watching the patterns, you've been seeing how your energy affects you, it affects others, it affects your environment. You've been seeing that for a while in a myriad of ways. It feels like this is where a fuller picture of how those things track and work, so that you're able to consciously begin to use your system in a way that is not coincidental, you could say, or unconscious, is coming into play. And what do I mean by that? Like, we've been tracking, a lot of the time, we've been tracking our patterns. We've been tracking, like I said, how our energy affects other beings, our environment. But we've been looking at it in terms of like the aftermath. We've been seeing the result. But a lot of the time, we haven't been connecting consciously with directing our energy in such a way to produce specific results. We've just kind of been in observation mode, kind of like, oh, I noticed that when I did this, this happened, or when I come into someone else's energy, this happens. We've been noticing, but we haven't necessarily been driving. And it feels like there's a shift that's occurring through this eclipse window. Mercury retrograde is helping. Jupiter going direct is also revving this up. Everything is assisting us right now, it feels like, in learning no longer how to just observe. Like, we've been in observation mode long enough, and that doesn't mean we're to stop being observant. We are. We are not supposed to stop being observant, I should say, rather, but more like you've observed how things have been moving through your consciousness. You've observed the result of what occurs through the movement of certain things within your consciousness. And now it's time to learn how to drive your consciousness at will to create what it is that you desire to create consciously instead of accidentally, coincidentally, etc. Okay? So this message about you're not too much. A big way that your power has been dampened, a big way that your power has been pacified, limited, belittled, and ultimately damaged, is by making you feel like there's something wrong with you. You're too much. You're too sensitive, maybe, or you're too emotional, right? That's a big one. You're too emotional, or you're too detailed. You're too observant. You see everything. You're not supposed to see everything. What is it? The statement, ignorance is bliss. No, mama. No, baby. Ignorance is not. It's not bliss. Ignorance will keep you going around in circles and loops, repeating the same shit, wasting your time, decaying away, and not even realizing that that's not who you are or your lot in life. You're not too much. They had it down. They had it right when they talked about it in Goldilocks. You're just right. We're all just right for who the fuck we are cosmologically. If you're too emotional, and you've been made to feel ashamed about it. Maybe you're too emotional. Maybe you're super emotional because of what your system is designed to do, what your system is designed to hold. Maybe your emotional body is so vast because you're here to direct the flow of the current in some way. But you've been being misused to amplify currents that don't belong to you. You're too sensitive. Maybe your system is supposed to pick up on distortion. Maybe your system is corrective in some way, and so it's sensitive because it's supposed to be activated through the tiniest of changes. What was the other one? Too emotional, too sensitive, too detailed. Maybe you're too detailed, quote unquote, too detailed, because your system works as some kind of a sorting. There's a sorting mechanism in your system. You weren't created the way that you were created by accident. And any aberrations that exist within your system are not based upon who you are. They're based upon false programming. So maybe you might have been misusing some of the ways your system works based upon ignorance because you weren't told who you are and you didn't remember. But the only aberration that exists within you as a source encoded being are the programs that have been wrongfully installed in you, where your actual literal source architecture and system has been exploited, so that your system does the very thing it's designed to do, but in the inverse. Ooh, that sent everything flying. We have the world. We have the Seven of Swords. We have the Queen of Swords. Yeah, there's something that's been hidden. And it's not even that it's been hidden. With the Seven of Swords, this energy is like, it's something that is right in front of your face, that belongs to you, that has been being used right in front of you when it belongs to you, or it's been being used against you in some way for something to have leverage or the upper hand over you. This is what's ending. That's the world. And that's the Queen of Swords, right? She comes to shut shit down. Okay, let's do a 4-card spread and see what's coming out. Okay. I haven't turned any cards over yet. Let's see what's at the bottom of the deck. We have the 10 of Cups. 10 of Cups. This is the energy we're in right now in terms of the sun. The 10 of Cups. The 10 of Cups is the third and final decan of Pisces. So it's the final card before we enter into a new revolution. Oh, that's another thing I forgot. And I meant to do a little short on it last week, but I forgot to do so also. And I was kind of wiped. Venus entered into Aries, right? So we've got a lot of shifting already occurring into the Aries energy, right? And very soon we're going to have even more. We're going to have the sun moving into Aries in the next, a little bit more than a week. The time of recording, about 8 days, we're going to have the sun moving into Aries. We're going to have, when Mercury goes direct next Friday, it's going to be moving into Aries maybe a week and a half after. We're going to have Mars moving into Aries shortly too. So very soon we're going to have the sun in Aries, Mercury in Aries, Mars in Aries, and Venus is already there. Saturn is there. Neptune is there. Chiron is there. That's a lot of Aries energy. So what did I tell you guys about that Aries? Well, maybe I told you more on Solarah Rises about this, but when you get to Aries, it's the beginning of a new journey around the zodiac wheel. It's the start of a new revolution, right? And you start that new revolution in the minor arcana through the 10 of Cups. That's the final card of Pisces in the minor arcana. What is the 10 of Cups about? Pisces is how we begin to relate with the all, and we realize that we are all interconnected. All of our fields are interconnected, right? But the trick of Pisces is to recognize our oneness while not losing our authority and our source code within the collective field of energy. Now, when we lose that, when we lose ourselves, we often lose ourselves in the collective energy through the emotional body, through the waters, through our emotions. A lot of the time, in other words, we get pulled into a different stream or a different current through our emotions, right? So remember I said some of you, you're too emotional was the thing that you were told, right? So beings who are too emotional, that's because you're here to influence the way that the collective current flows, the collective emotional body, how it swells, how it moves, how it flows. When you are in integrity with your system and you are properly rooted in your source code, then your system becomes almost like a compass that allows the collective emotional body to move in accordance with source code too. Which, remember I said to you that when you in the false matrix, what they like to do is they like to take your very gifts, the way your system is organized by source code. They like to take that and invert it for their use. And I've talked about this, a lot before, about how, like, for example, those of you who've been labeled as too emotional, who literally are here to steer the collective flow of, the emotional stream and the emotional body of the collective, right? They needed you very specifically in despair, but more than despair, the message that was coming through is they needed you feeling like you were too much so that you would stay in shame. Why shame? Because shame on the vibrational scale is the lowest frequency it's possible for you to descend into, and it's an emotion. But what does shame denounce, or what does shame do ultimately? Shame is complete and utter self-rejection. To be ashamed of yourself, who you are, is to completely be in self-rejecting mode. And as a source encoded being, when you are in self-rejecting mode, you are in source rejecting mode. Now, here's the thing about those of you who have this emotional vastness. You've also got a lot of porosity. A lot of the time, you're very porous, right? So what does that mean? That means that other people can come into your field, and if you're not rooted in the power of your own authority over the current, you can easily be swept into someone else's current, and then the power of your emotional energy can be used to drive what it is they want emotionally through you, as opposed to you sovereignly choosing how you flow. And the trick of that is that a lot of the time you were used to drive and to expand and magnify emotions that didn't belong to you, while being tricked into believing that those emotions were you, or a result of who you are, the choices you've made, etc., etc. I hope you're with me here. So in other words, you were used to expand certain emotions on the planet that help the false matrix to stay in the low frequency, the collective frequency, the low frequency and the collective energy that was necessary for the false matrix to stay dominant. And the false matrix, understand and overstand, I don't have my trusty vibrational scale with me anymore since I left. But you can pull it up, through any search engine, just put in vibrational scale. And when you do, you're going to see that the vibrational scale goes into the colors of the spectrum. So shame is in the red, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? Violet being the point of, I think, illumination is the top one, and shame is the bottom. Now, when you travel up through the vibrational scale and get to the green, you'll have, like, I think, anger and pride moves from the yellow into the green. And then at some point in the green, you'll have neutrality. You'll have neutral before love. Neutrality is a door into love. Everything beneath neutrality are the emotional states that they use in the false matrix to manipulate us, to exploit us, and to keep us stuck and looping. And for those of you who have this vast emotional awareness, this vast emotional ability, they use your system very specifically in order to keep those emotions persistently running, right? Thank you to whoever just purchased something or donated. That's what that that little noise was. Thank you. So they used your system to keep you amplifying what they needed you to amplify, so that you would then direct that into the mass collective current. Because remember, I said to you, many of you who've been accused of being too emotional, your literal system is designed to drive the flow and the current of emotion on the planet, but you're supposed to be able to do that in your source code. And the only way you're actually able to do that efficiently is by knowing who you are, is by being rooted in that, so that, like I said, when other beings' emotions try to come and enter into your field and use your system to amplify their desires, they're not able to, because you're so rooted in the truth of who you are and your source code. Which brings me back to what it is I was saying, you're not too much, right? And why this message is coming through right now. I really do feel like a lot of what is happening for many of you, especially if this message is resonating for you, is that you might have known this about yourself. Like, I know I have this huge ability to shift emotional energy, to shift people emotionally. I know I have that, but I haven't really known how it is I'm supposed to do that. I do it accidentally. I do it consciously sometimes, but not with the power and the resonance that I know I'm here to like step into. And this is what's coming online right now. It feels like, in other words, a lot of system code is coming back. A lot of not only recognition of who you are, but now being able to know how to step in and use that. That's what it feels like is coming online right now. Right? So I know traditionally in the tarot, the 10 of Cups is about family and love and yada, yada, yada. For me, it's more than that. It's how you begin to connect with all things that define your emotional reality. And you're able to do that in healthy ways for the promotion of your own joy. And so, yes, your family, your soul tribe, the beings you connect with on a soul level, it should be that naturally, but it hasn't been that up until this point because of how everything was in distortion, including even how we thought we were supposed to connect with one another, with source, etc. And all of this is coming into further cohesion. And what I'm feeling like this 10 of Cups is showing also is it's almost like as these system codes come back and we remember how it is that we function and we begin to move deliberately in accordance with our source system code, that is moving out of our fields the things that have been clinging to us for as long as we were kind of wishy-washy in that energy. And what that is allowing for, it's allowing for your true matches, your true energetic matches, your true source encoded matches to be able to find you, to be able to come online. The clearer you become with yourself, the clearer you become with your own signal, the clearer you become with your source code and your ability to hold it and direct it and to live it, the more you begin to call in those that are actually your true mirrors, your true amplifiers, those that you're here to grow those source codes, those source gifts with. Okay? In the overarching theme, we have the Two of Swords. The Two of Swords. So this is Libran energy, right? This is the first decan of Libra, 0 to 10 degrees Libra, for those of you who want to match this with your chart. So the 10 of Cups at the bottom of the deck is 20 to 29 degrees Pisces. I think right now at the time of recording, the sun is at 21 degrees Pisces. Yeah. Two of Swords is 0 to 9 degrees Libra. Okay. So when we begin to move through Libran energy, when a transit begins in Libra, it's just coming out of Virgo, right? And Virgo is a big defining point. It's the doorway out of the first half of the zodiac is out through Virgo and in through Libra, right? So when you begin to enter Libran territory out of the Virgo door, which if you're looking at the tarot, the Two of Swords actually comes after the 10 of Pentacles, because the 20 to 29 degrees of Virgo is the 10 of Pentacles. And then you move into Libra, 0 to 9 degrees is the Two of Cups, right? So we might come back to that Pentacles energy. We'll see if it comes out in the other cards. But anyway, when you're entering into Libra, you're beginning to negotiate how your system works in cohesiveness with things outside of you. So the first half of the zodiac wheel, Aries to Virgo, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, it's all about how you relate to source and how you relate to self. And very specifically, if you're looking at it on a more material level, how the beings that connect you directly to your source code, how they help you to either connect deeper with yourself or not. And those beings would be mainly your parents, right? Cancer is the mother, Leo is the father, biologically speaking, right? It has to do with your biological, it has to do with the contracts with your biological mother, Cancer, your biological father, Leo. Your Aries has to do with your connection and contracts with the divine father principle of source, and Taurus has to do with the divine mother principle of source. Okay. And then Gemini, Virgo, both mutable signs. This is how you integrate, right? You get to that point of integration after you've been through Aries, Taurus integration, Cancer, Leo. And so father-mother relationship integration, divine father, divine mother relationship, and your connection with self based upon that identity, then integration, right? Then you have biological mother, biological father, and how that defines you too. And then through Virgo, integration, deeper groundedness and embodiment in who you are, in your source code, but also in a body, right? Then Libra comes, and it's about how you begin to take that self-knowledge and that source code and that identity out into the world. And with the Two of Swords, it's where a lot of the time there are blind spots, right? There are things that you don't yet see. And it's not that always that you don't yet see those things because they're hidden from you in a nefarious way. It oftentimes is you don't yet see those things because the way that you learn yourself and those things come into deeper illumination is through relating with others. And with Libran energy, very specifically, it's how you learn yourself on a deeper level through intimate connection. Okay? So again, with this Two of Swords, and given that Libran breakdown I just gave you, there's something also that's coming back online that's allowing you to come into coherence with those who are true mirrors. Okay, true mirrors, true allies energetically and in terms of how they're encoded. A lot of how we've been picking people in the past has been based upon woundedness, sentimentality, shared passions, shared desires, and the truth is, with those who you are truly connected with on a soul level, those things come naturally. But oftentimes we were connecting with people more on that basis, and the root of our relationship with them was not established in source or established in our source code. And a lot of that has to do with the false social dynamics of the false matrix, but also with how we were programmed through the false matrix to sacrifice ourselves in our interactions with people. And in doing so, a lot of how we came together with others was very much based upon that self-sacrificial model, as well as what we could identify as codependency, or things that were rooted in self-betrayal, in order to keep false peace, as opposed to everyone being rooted and grounded in themselves and being a natural, like magnetic fit. So in other words, in the false matrix, we learned how to manipulate ourselves, one another, and energy so that things felt okay that were not. And we became so good at it and so blind to the fact that's what we were doing that we weren't actually able to see that that's what it was. Where we do that, where we've done that, where other people are doing that, it's going to become so much more crystal clear through this energy. And part of that, again, is because the way that we begin to see the truth of others is first seeing the truth within self. You can only, in other words, we can only see as far into another person as we've seen into ourselves. So until we are okay with unveiling every aspect of the truth of who we are and being transparent with ourselves on an internal level, that's that Virgo energy, then we don't actually see people as they are. We're still seeing them through distortion. And when we're still seeing people in distortion, they can fool us because we're still fooling ourselves in some ways. So the key here is to always become more internally transparent. And like I said, with that Virgo energy, radically honest. And this is what that Virgo energy is doing, by the way, because like I said, we had that full moon in Virgo last week, right? That blood moon, that fucking lunar eclipse. And I told you guys how it's setting us up for that full solar eclipse that's happening in Leo season, I think on the 12th of August. I think it's the 12th of August. It's somewhere around that time, I think. Yeah, I think it's the 12th of August. There's a full moon in Leo. It's a full solar eclipse. It's happening, I think, on the 12th of August. And at that point, the North Node will be at 0 degrees Pisces, and the South Node will be at 0 degrees Virgo. That's a 0-0 portal. And at that point, a lot of what this full moon in Virgo window of energy is opening, the possibilities for us, those things will come into a deeper maturation, embodiment, and in some ways, things are going to come to an end and a close. Those things, in other words, that this full lunar eclipse in Virgo are here to drag out for closure. That's where they're taking us to that new moon in Leo gateway. That will then begin to open the door into the Aquarian Leo nodal transit, which takes us deeper into the true materialization of the golden age on Earth also. But again, remember, the golden age comes through us. So as we connect to our true golden age timelines, we're bringing them back on Earth. So there's an opportunity through this full moon in Virgo eclipse, as we move through the next 6 months into that full solar eclipse, there's an opportunity for us to refine ourselves in such a way that we are able to masterfully bring forth our golden age timelines through recognition and remembrance of how we create and cultivate timelines through this system remembrance, through these codes that are coming through to help us remember how our systems actually work when we are the conscientious drivers of our own systems and our codes. And we're aware of how those codes work and interact. And we are connecting with other people who are also here to help us not only identify, but to drive more efficiently and to bring these things forth and to also co-create these golden age timelines together, right? In the challenge position, we got the 8 of Wands. The 8 of Wands. This is Sagittarius energy, 0 to 9 degrees Sagittarius. For those of you who want to check out where that is in your chart. 0 to 9 degrees Sagittarius. This is in the challenge position. Now, the 8 of Wands talks about something entering the picture very suddenly and very quickly. And oftentimes what it's literally breakthrough energy. So think about the 8 and what it connects you to in the major arcana. It connects you to the strength card. And then if you take it further, it also connects you to the star. The number 17 card breaks down to 8. So those are Aquarius and Leo. Leo and Aquarius energies. Strength is Leo, the star is Aquarius. So when you're dealing with the 8s, what you're dealing with is that strength card and star energy. The purpose of the 8s is to get you through the strength and the star energies of the major arcana. So what does that mean? It means it's what allows for you to break through something, break through density in order to come into higher alignment, not only with the truth of who you are, but with how you're supported in that truth. That's what you're dealing with the star. When you're dealing with the star, you're not only dealing with just coming into the alignment of the truth of who you are, you're dealing with how you're supported cosmically in that alignment process too. So in other words, as you're able to push through, and the strength card denotes you're pushing through based upon your soul and source code. As you follow your soul, as you follow your source code and you break past those barriers that have once kept you out or are still vying to keep you out, not only do you break into like a higher resonance, you break into higher resource allotment, you break into higher support, you break into higher protections, right? So the challenge here, right, with the 8 of Wands in the challenge position can feel like a pressure cooker. It can feel like pressure cooker. It can feel like you're being pulled every which way. You kind of know that you're being pulled for the purpose of expansiveness, but you don't quite yet know, where that the pulling is going to take you. You have hope because this is like, it's Sagittarius energy, so it's Jupiter, and we have that Jupiter going direct. So you have the hope, you have the faith, you have the belief that is going to take you in the right direction. And that hope, that faith, that belief, it has to be greater than everything that wants to come to push you back. Because this is where you find yourself in an energetic tussle with the 8 of Wands in the challenge. It kind of means that you're rapidly being pulled from one consciousness flow to another, one reality or state into another. You're being pulled so rapidly that if you don't keep your footing, if you don't keep your awareness, as to who you are, and like I said, you don't keep your faith and your hope, directed towards who you are and where you're going, this is where you can get pulled back very rapidly, but you can also get pulled forward very rapidly. So what I'm getting here is that there's a window of energy, especially with this Jupiter, and that's what I've kind of been feeling, this Jupiter going direct. The energy feels very chaotic. Fuck all of those videos that keep on coming up on the algorithm talking about Jupiter enters or goes direct and your luck changes and the wealth is here. And I'm so tired of that. It's such a surface level way to look at not only Jupiter, but how these energies actually work. It gives people a false sense of hope without giving them the direction as to how they're to drive themselves through this energy. Because yes, Jupiter is beautiful for breaking you open to the expansiveness that you have opened the door to through your soul work, that Jupiter is helping you walk through. Jupiter doesn't just rain down glitter and just like everybody, like fucking Oprah, you get a car. No, that's not how Jupiter works. Jupiter is a law. It's a law-making planet with Saturn. It doesn't just go ahead handing out luck and wealth and fortune to everything and everyone, but Jupiter does amplify everything it touches. That's the truth, right? So it amplifies things in truth. So right now, bear in mind, like I said, the message is coming through. You're not too much, but this Jupiter moving direct especially in the sign of Cancer, that has to do with our emotional foundations and how we've come to feel about ourselves and relate to ourselves. Also, the distortions we have with the relationships we've had with our mothers, and how that has created distortion and woundedness and separation within ourselves. All of those things are being amplified right now as Jupiter goes direct. Why? Because as you find yourself in the muck, it's like being fucking born again. As you find yourself in the muck and the mire of that amplification, and you stand on business and you stand on the truth of who you are, and you no longer allow that too muchness to sweep you away into nothingness, or into, out of the being God over your own timeline. As you learn that, then you become king of your castle again. Empress over your own fucking empire. And your empire and your castle, it's you. It's your system. Okay? So this Eight of Wands energy is showing me. 1 second, 77% battery right now. 2025 on my clock. So 2025 themes might be coming up, right? Things that are finally, with that 7-7 energy, 2025. These are things that you were closing out last year, that you may have closed out, but now there might be some definition around those choices as you stand in, you stand on business, you stand in your power. So that Eight of Wands in the challenge position, shit is feeling cray right now. Like everything is happening, right? Like, look at the fucking state of the world, right? The fucking state of the world right now is a reflection of what's going on in us internally too. Everything is like, ooh, fireworks, right? Crazy energy. And if you can find yourself in the midst of it, and you can center and ground yourself in your source truth, then as we move through the corridor next week of the new moon in Pisces, the sun entering Aries, Mercury moving out of retrograde, you're going to find that this Jupiter expansiveness is going to become grounded in how it is you're directing it at this point. I hope that is clear. What I'm saying is clear for you. Because a lot of what is coming up now, there's a lot of like trauma that's being shown. And it's always like, we always feel like we're so like, we've graduated past certain things, and then they come back around. It's fucking Pisces season, and Jupiter just went direct in Pisces season. Okay? Do you know what Pisces season is about? And then Mercury is retrograding through through Pisces. You know what Pisces energy is about? Is about like a review. Pisces season is like Mercury retrograde in general. And then you have a Mercury retrograde. And why am I saying Pisces is like Mercury retrograde? Because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac before you walk through the next portal into Aries. Whether you're going to walk into a higher cycle or whether you're going to repeat shit, it's going to be based upon how you're able to review yourself through the lens that Pisces gives you. That's why Pisces is the high priestess. Because Pisces allows for you to see things, see the mechanics of what has been running you beneath the materialization of the patterning. So this is deep right now. Jupiter amplifies and expands what it touches. And right now, on a chart level, as Jupiter goes direct, the sun is moving through the final degrees of Pisces. Mercury is retrograding in Pisces. And then we've got the nodes. North node Pisces, South node Virgo. And then we're just a week out of the eclipse, the full lunar eclipse. So yeah, Jupiter's amplifying all right. And those areas where you've been made to feel like you're too much, there are things that are coming up right now that are going to poke you in those places of vulnerability. They're going to poke you in those places of vulnerability where you've been made to feel like you're too much, so that you can get over that lie, if you allow yourself to. Because what that programming, what that deep wounding wants to do is it wants you to feel like you're too much again, and to shrink and to go back into the old code. That's what, it's not even just the false matrix. It's what your misprogrammed system also wants to do. Your system has been programmed against you. Your system has been programmed to believe things about you that aren't true. But because you've lived them so much, they feel true. They feel truer than the truth of who you are. But this energy is where you get to bust out of the misprogramming. And even though you don't quite yet feel or fully yet embody or believe the fullness of the truth of who you are in your source code, you're holding on to that truth over the lie of the misprogramming that feels so fucking real in your body, feels so fucking real in your heart. Because it's time to let go of that old code that was designed to overwrite you emotionally, so your system would be used to amplify emotions that are not in alignment with your source code. It's time to wash that shit out. And this is going to have to do, because you're dealing with Pisces energy. So this is going to come in from a whole bunch of different ways, from people you know, from people you don't know. Pisces is how you connect with all things and how all things are you. And so all things can ultimately trigger you and show you also those things you need to see. Right? What it is you need to be paying attention to. We've got more cups energy here. 7 of Cups. This is Scorpio. This is the 0 to 9 degrees of Scorpio. 20 to 29 degrees of Scorpio. It's the 3rd decan of Scorpio, my bad. So your guidance is a third decan of Scorpio. 20 to 29 degrees Scorpio, if you want to look that up on your chart. Now, the 20 to 29 degrees of Scorpio is where a lot of the time, 20 to 29 and, oh my goodness, and 0 to 9 degrees Sagittarius. That's where a lot of the time your Phoenix codes start to come through. I didn't even notice that. So when we're moving through, let's say we're talking about the sun, we're moving through Scorpio season, that last decan of Scorpio before the sun moves into Sagittarius, the last decan of Scorpio, the first decan of Sagittarius are where a lot of the time what I call our Phoenix codes begin to come online. Now, the 7 of Cups is interesting because the 7 of Cups actually for me is a card that speaks of timeline selection based upon what it is you're going to entertain or you're going to allow your consciousness to drive and therefore birth. This is not just based upon your beliefs. This is based upon the resonance behind what you're choosing to believe. If you're able to switch into the requisite resonance for the timeline you're choosing to create. That's the 7 of Cups. Now, the only way that we're really able to do this, to drive our consciousness in this way, is if we are fully aware of like fully transparently aware of who we are. And that's what the journey of Scorpio takes us through, especially the first 2 decans. So Scorpio is a sign of the zodiac that has 3 fucking tarot cards: Death, Tower, Judgment. And then it has like 3 emblems. So you got the scorpion that speaks about our lower nature. You've got the eagle that speaks about our higher nature. And then you've got the Phoenix code, which speaks about how we rise from one state of being, how we evolve. And the Phoenix is actually, it's not just about rising into the eagle. It's about the ability to rise into your higher truth because you've integrated the lower truth too. That's what creates the phoenix energy. Otherwise, it's just eagle. The phoenix is the sublimation of your scorpion and eagle codes at peace in your system, and you fully aware of your shadow, not rejecting it, okay with using it when necessary, and fully aware of the heights of your power too. A lot of the time, we're not aware of either expression in its fullness. So, in other words, we don't like to see the depths of our lower nature. And we also don't like to see the heights of our higher nature. We would rather kind of, shimmy around the midpoint. Or what does Yeshua say in the book of Revelation? Lukewarm. Lukewarm. He said that's the worst thing to be. He said the worst thing to be is lukewarm. He said be completely cold or be completely on fire, but don't be lukewarm. And I believe what he was referring to was our propensity to just hang out in that zone of mediocrity. Mediocrity based upon our inability to connect with and accept the fullness of our multidimensional truth. Because the truth is that when you're a multidimensional being, you can go to all dimensions, and all dimensions are connected to frequency. So a denial of your lower self, a denial of your shadow, means that you have cut yourself off from visiting certain places. And a denial of your higher reality means you've cut yourself off from visiting those places too. But you're a multidimensional, unlimited source encoded being who should be able to travel the whole thing. You should be able to go down, up, to the side. You should be able to go wherever you need to go for the purpose of proper expression, but most importantly, proper harmonization at every level of your expression and evolution. You should be able to run the whole gamut. You should be able to go to hell and not be run over by the demons down there, or what they want to call demons. You should be able to ascend into what they would call the heavens and be at home there too. You should be able to go to all places. The more multidimensional you are, and the more you are integrated in that multidimensional code and truth, and you're able to embody it, the more you're able to go to places. And I'm talking about your consciousness traveling, because as your consciousness travels to different places, you are able to open doors and bring in things from those experiences to materialize them into your timelines. The Seven of Cups is how you use your consciousness, how you learn how to travel with your consciousness based upon your ability to access all levels of self and to use that access to create consciously what you're desiring to pull in and birth. Sevens in the tarot will always have to do with light body, the Chariot, right? Guidance. Ooh, more Libra energy. We got Libra we're bookending the reading. We got the Four of Swords. We got the first decan of Libra opening the reading, and we've got the final decan of Libra closing it out. Okay, so the Four of Swords. What's the guidance? When the Four of Swords is in the guidance, it's about finding your foundation through rest, through stability, through not allowing yourself to use your mind to travel to places emotionally that's going to get you stuck. This is showing you the importance of learning how to use your mind right now, how you're using your mind. Because like I said before, a lot of what's going on right now with this Jupiter amplification, it's designed to amplify the old code for you to reject it, right? But in the amplification of the old code come the old peanut gallery that try to amplify their voices in your field to keep you, with them. And we've got to decide how we're going to use our mind, because remember, everything that's occurring right now is to put you back into conscious awareness of how to use your system to create on your own terms, as opposed to being used, having your system being used by others to manifest on their behalves, or creating things in your reality, but not having complete autonomy because you lack the fullness of awareness of how you work and everything fits together. So the Four of Swords and guidance, it also speaks about reflection. It's the reflection that's necessary to arm you for the Five of Swords, if you're looking at this through how it moves. And what do you need to be protected against? What do you need to protect your mind against with the Five of Swords? The Four of Swords is preparing you to protect yourself against the attacks that come in to try to pull you out of your own power and into other competing narratives that benefit other beings who want to usurp your power over your own consciousness, for the power of driving your consciousness, and more importantly, for the power of taking from you. To tear somebody down, a lot of the time why people do that is because it gives them a false boost in their energy, a false boost of confidence. Right? So a lot of the false matrix, these games were designed, these are the true fucking Hunger Games. They were designed to keep people out of the driver's seat of their own consciousness and constantly reacting and not in observation mode, let alone driving mode. So the Four of Swords sits smack between the Three and the Five of Swords. The Three of Swords is where interference starts to come in, or try to come in, to take you out of alignment with your own truth and with your own heart. It's where also you try, a lot of the time, the false matrix taught us this thing called logic, which isn't real. Logic is real, but not in the way that they taught us in the false matrix. The logic they taught us in the false matrix was a program that was designed to benefit their harvesting endeavors and everything else. Right? So through that logic, we were programmed. And we were programmed to use that logic to override our own souls. So we were programmed to use our minds to overwrite what it is that our hearts were calling us to. So the Four of Swords is how we begin to sit down and really begin to see that, to see the intricacies and the mechanics of our own self-betrayal, so that as we move forward, because the next is the Five of Swords, we are not robbed of our own command over self. So you're not too much. You're not too much. You were purposely made to feel like that by those who benefited by you staying in shame. And again, that's full self-rejection, so you can rise into your source code, your mastery, or using your system in accordance with your source code. I think I'm going to close out here. It's already been an hour. Alrighty, guys. I have a new decree that I released a few days ago after my group on Sunday. Thank you so much to those of you who attended my group on Sunday, my post-eclipse group. It was wonderful to have all of you there. It was just a good time. I really, I've missed the group space. I'll be starting to do more of those again as I feel intuitively led to open that up. So stay tuned to the community board as I put out that information. But thank you to those of you who attended. It was like the perfect balance of beings in attendance for reopening the group space for me for the first time since leaving my old family situation. So thank you. But within that group space, we were talking about something, and something came up where we were talking about, I think, certain technologies, false simulation, frequency flooding, those military operatives that are designed to target beings. And I had been doing a lot of that work on myself in my time off from recording here. So I done like decrees and laws around that in November. And so I went back into that information, created a decree for the collective, and I put it out, I think, on Tuesday. So that one is available. I will put it in the pinned comment section below. For those of you who would like to work with me one-to-one, or to book in for a soul recovery or a divine alignment reading, you can do so through the information provided. The links for soul recovery, a 60 or 90-minute session, are there. You can go book directly through the links. For divine alignment readings, for now, you can email me, solarahspeaks@proton.me. Okay. What else? I think that's it. If you would like to support my work, if you would like to give towards the channel, my ability to continue to do this and to support what it is that I do, or to just give me a, treat me with a coffee, then you can do so through my Ko-Fi. That is ko-fi.com/Solarah Rises. I'll put that information in the pinned comment section below as well. I want to thank all of you for the myriad of ways that you show your support, whether it's through donations, whether it's through booking me for appointments, whether it's through, buying me a coffee, whether it's through commenting, sharing, however it is that you show your love and your support. I thank you so much for that. I really do. And I do appreciate you. I think that's it. Yes, I think that's it. I will see you again when I see you. I ask that you look after yourself. This energy is not to be fucked around with, but then again, neither are you, okay? Remember that too. This energy is not to be fucked around with, but neither are you, okay? And I will see you when I see you again. Until then, be well.